Hello everyone, my name is Unreal Khan and welcome back to China in Hearts of Iron 4 The Fire Rises. Disclaimer, I do not support any radical ideologies depicted in this video, nor do I support any radical leaders or any dictators or any radical evil beliefs. I'm well aware of what they have done throughout history and up until now. I do not support them, and this video is plainly for entertainment purposes. This mod in particular touches on recent events in the 2020s and mentions real people. However, it is not affiliated with those people or any organizations also depicted in this video. Again, this video is for entertainment purposes. Okay. Welcome back to the People's Republic of China. In the last episode, we experienced the election of Joe Biden as President of the United States and the chaos that ensued in the United States before and afterwards, how the fire rose. Saudi Arabian civil war is going pretty fine. I guess that's one way of putting it. The Saudi Arabian civil war is now a 5-way civil war, which now involves Jaish al-Fath, led by Atta Abu Rashta. Also, the Yemeni government collapsed into the pro-Iranian faction, so I had to pull out my troops there because I supported the Arab Republic, supported by the original Saudi Arabia. But yeah, so that's done and over with. I'm still trying to struggle through. Ethiopia is in their civil war between the pro-Egypt faction and the pro-East Africa Federation here. But what's important is the Congolese civil war pretty much broke out. And I'm supporting the Central African Civil Military Administration, which is led by Wagner. It's kind of weird, but it's kind of cursed, and I think that's what makes it fun. But for the sake of it, we're supporting it. We're not supporting the Communist Republic of the Congo. That's because, well, if I was, I mean, it's just kind of, I was just kind of playing China more realistically. China doesn't really want to spread communism all over the world. They're more like security concerns. They're more concerned about, their country. They don't really care what happens to their enemies or small nations so long as they're friendly. And since China is uncertain about America's future, they are still aligned with Russia against the West. So they'll support the pro-Russian faction in the Congo, which is this one. I'm just doing it for roleplay reasons, but I know this is just a game. I don't have to bother with it. So, focus-wise, we are almost done with the main branch, trying to stabilize after the viral outbreak. But what I also did was I tackled the oil crisis. I only went after the ones that gave the centrists power. I'm doing expanded domestic oil production. My goal for this video is I want to try and finish this part of the tree before we get into this one. I want to finish this part and then get into this one. But I know for a fact we're going to be dealing with more than just these kind of conflicts and the oil production. Because I know for a fact in this episode we are going to witness the Second American Civil War. Biden is currently in their focus tree. They didn't choose the AI didn't choose to side with Trump, so it's not going to end by like June or July. This is going to end by like August, probably even September, but it's almost always going to be August. Anywho, enough yapping, let's get back to work. Massive viral resurgence in India. God help the people of India. That does not matter to us. Also, I want to try and build up more of my navy, because I think I have an idea of how we're going to deal with it. Communists just destroyed the Christian Republic of the Congo. RIP. Let us blame local officials. This increases our centrist power. Normally, we'd blame the Americans, but that's for the revanchists and the new left, and I don't want to support either of them. We must find a scapegoat for the failures and chaos that occurred in the prevention of the pandemic. We can capitalize on the people's hatred of corrupt bureaucrats and lazy cadres by launching a new anti-corruption campaign. The CCDI will conduct an all-encompassing review of the work and documents of all levels of governments over the past few years, focusing on local cadres who are not productive in implementing central authority policies and who have inappropriate relationships with pharmaceutical companies. We can also take this opportunity to install more cronies in the administration. This gives us stability, political power, and more centrist power. Now, in the last episode, someone mentioned how I should be very careful with the Congo Civil War, and you're right. I should be careful, because if you look at the supply, well, most of the supply hubs are down here, and they're owned by the communists. Meanwhile, the Wagner Group has only one. But still, I aim to try and be careful. Hopefully we don't get encircled there, but we'll see. Now, as for... let's start to focus on our construction and research. Let's take a look at the supply situation over here. Oh, right, music. So the main Saudi kingdom, backed by the Westerners, is currently acting as a cornered fox. We could strike them out right now, but as the saying goes, a cornered fox is more dangerous than an exposed one, or something like that. So I think we should just wait it out until it is surrounding on all sides, and then we will pounce it. I think as of now, what we should do is focus on the Salafists right here. So let's go over here and try to kick them out. Because yeah, they have supply hubs here, and they have a naval base here. And unfortunately, our faction does not have access to the coast. So they need to get over here. Expand the social security net. The virus has taught us a meaningful lesson. The reason I'm not saying the name is because I don't want it to somehow demonetize my videos. Across the country, the virus has claimed the lives of a greater number of people who are also poor and socially disconnected, especially the elderly. Whether in the countryside or in the cities, the situation is similar, which deeply reveals the shortcomings of our social safety net system. If we want to achieve the goal of common prosperity set by the party, we must formulate better social safety policies and promote more timely assistance to those in need. Replace moderate welfare benefits with high welfare benefits. This unfortunately increases the new left power, but this is a mandatory focus, so we need to take this. Besides, we're pretty strong anyway. Okay, let's go mobile. Let's get adaptability expert. Panda is no longer endangered. It is a good day to be a giant panda. Chinese conservation officials have announced that they no longer consider giant pandas in China an endangered species. Their status has been updated to vulnerable. Koi Shushang from China's Ministry of Ecology and Environment said, "There are now 1,800 giant pandas living in the wild, a number that officials credit to the country's devotion to maintaining nature reserves and other conservation initiatives in recent years. As a result, other species have also flourished. Siberian tigers, Asian elephants, and crested ibises have all seen a gradual increase in population numbers, according to the outlet." Remarkable. Syria is in the middle of their conflict. 100 years of the CPC. Today, July 1st. Well, that's a lie. It's July 8th. Okay, whatever. July 1st marks the 100th anniversary of the Communist Party of China. After years of preparation, including the promotion of history museums across the country related to the Communist Party, we've begun the first wave of celebrations in Beijing. The light shows across the country, notably in Changsha, beginning in late June. The National Film Administration mandated local film centers, cinema companies, and production firms to screen and promote, starting in April, films dedicated to celebrating the history of the Chinese socialism and the liberation of our people. Banners and billboards were placed across the city as a rallying cry for the Chinese people to attend the celebrations, which they did. The turnout for the event has been monumental, with Chairman Xi Jinping accompanied by Premier Li Keqiang, former General Secretary Hu Jintao, and members of the Politburo Standing Committee, delivering an hour-long speech near Tiananmen Square to harken a new era for socialism with Chinese characteristics. Amidst his speech, we had delivered to the world a show of force, reiterating that any force who tried to belittle China would find themselves on a collision course with the Great Wall of Steel forged by the 1.4 billion people that make up our nation. Unfortunately, the expected military parade was cancelled, though a fly-past of aircraft was shown on full display to the world. Here's to the Chinese century. Asian government overthrown. That concerns nothing to us. Henan flood disaster. Henan province experienced unprecedented and catastrophic rainfall, affecting 14.78 million people across 150 counties in 16 states. The extreme rainstorm led to tragic incidents, most notably the flooding of Line 5 of the Zhangshao Metro, resulting in casualties. Currently, the State Council has dispatched an investigation team to assess the impact of this natural disaster and address the issues exposed during the emergency response. Water is merciless. Let's just focus on taking care. Communist Congo has defeated the Republic of the Congo. Return to normalcy. After years of hard work, today we are finally able to announce to the entire nation and the entire world that China has come out of the virus pandemic and officially returned to normalcy. This is not only a victory for the Communist Party of China, the People's Republic of China, but also a great victory achieved by 1.4 billion Chinese people. Add 3 off-map civilian factories, game-based stability 5. We will no longer be susceptible. Okay, good news. We finally have access to their naval base. So now, Actually, I think I should hold back. I should wait. I don't want to extend myself. Concessions to corporate demands. Party's governing capacity is undergoing a serious test. If corporate dissatisfaction continues to grow, it will be difficult to ensure the development of the economy. We will therefore give due concessions to the demands of the corporate by introducing business-friendly policies, including tax cuts and debt relief, as well as by stopping the denigration of entrepreneurs on the internet. After all, China cannot become a superpower without the GDP created by its enterprises. Oh yeah, Myanmar exploded into her civil. They're gonna fall. The death of Wall Street. The United States has been plunged into a deep crisis, the effects of which are now being felt across the world. In recent months, the country has faced an acute political crisis with rising political violence and a sharply polarized society. An intensified wave of the viral infections has only exacerbated the situation, causing massive job losses and overburdening the healthcare system. Against this backdrop, living standards have fallen precipitously. The country's economy was paralyzed, imports and exports fell sharply, and prices for essential goods soared. The financial sector was not ready for this development. U.S. banks suddenly imposed restrictions on withdrawals, citing a critical liquidity shortage. This decision caused a wave of panic among the population, which led to a massive sell-off of assets and transfer of savings into cash. The U.S. financial markets collapsed, which immediately affected the economies of other countries. The world economy was on the verge of collapse. Stock indexes are falling rapidly. Currencies are depreciating. Political instability in the United States only exacerbates the global crisis, which is already being called one of the most destructive in modern history. A world on the brink of collapse. Against worldwide financial crisis. It's about to begin. Here we go. MSS, report of completely chaos in America. Well, here it is, folks. I think a better way of saying this would be a report of mass pandemonium in America. But that's up to the TFR devs. Dear Comrade President, according to the relevant decisions of the Politburo, the MSS continues to closely monitor the domestic situation in the United States and has further expanded the activities of its intelligence network and agents there. Division within the U.S. is now a foregone conclusion, and violent conflicts have escalated into multi-factional political struggles. The MSS has compiled relevant reports and hereby provides a brief summary to the Politburo. First, there are the forces within the two major ruling parties in the United States, primarily represented by the Constitutionalists led by Donald Trump and the Union government led by Joseph Biden. Currently, Trump and his supporters are gradually retreating to Denver, Colorado, standing in opposition to the Biden camp in Washington, D.C. Additionally, various separatist forces are emerging from the American grassroots political movements, with the Patriot Front being the most prominent. They mainly hold radical populist and nationalist views and can generally be classified as neo-fascists. The activities of more extreme alternate right organizations should also not be ignored. Notably on the West Coast, particularly in California, multiple leftist forces have emerged, including several local parties that openly hold socialist positions. It is believed that they have begun discussing the possibility of forming a united front and have committed to the path of armed revolutionary struggle. Although the prospects are uncertain, this development could be significant for our country. Respectfully yours, Minister of State Minister of State Security Chen Wenqing. I just realized we have this. So you either have equality, which leads to greater socialist support, I believe, and you have prosperity, which leads to economic growth. Let's increase our durability in there. The US 7th Fleet remains in Taiwan. Old habits die hard. It's literally the same event, so that's why I just clicked out of it. With the outbreak of civil war back in the continental United States, the international community continues to follow the status of the United States military deployments overseas. Recently, some ships of the US 7th Fleet continued to operate near the Taiwan Strait, causing the regional situation to become more complicated. The spokesperson for the Chinese Ministry of Defense claimed that despite internal turmoil, the US continues to provoke incidents over the Taiwan issue, violating the One China principle, interfering in China's internal affairs, and undermining regional peace and stability. The spokesperson also reaffirmed that Taiwan is an inseparable part of China. The People's Liberation Army remains on high alert and resolutely counter any provocative acts to safeguard national sovereignty and territorial integrity. The US 7th Fleet stated that its operations in the Pan-Indo-Pacific region will continue as normal, emphasizing freedom of navigation, and declaring that it will continue to carry out activities in waters permitted by international law. The US Department of Defense emphasized that the mission of the 7th Fleet remains unaffected by domestic circumstances. Experts criticize the 7th Fleet for continuing to maintain its presence around the Taiwan Strait, which increased the uncertainty and risk of misjudgment of the situation. Old habits die hard. So what we're going to do is we are going to support the APLA. I mean, that's fairly obvious, but I also want to try and expand more. Like, I know we have to save Myanmar. It's going to take a while to do that. But I also want to try and support, like, any more, like, left-leaning factions close here. So that includes the Ejército de Liberación Chicano, or the Chicano People's Liberation Army. I want to support Rose City Antifa, or anti-fascist action over here. We can use Cascadia, but like, well, we'll support Cascadia. Why not? Just make it nice, make it happy. When Mexico explodes, we'll support the Zapatista, we'll support Nicaragua, and Colombia. Let's bump up our research. They're just gonna keep exploding. Chinese American scientists seek asylum in China. Since the onset of the U.S. Civil War and the subsequent collapse of grassroots governance, politically neutral individuals have faced heightened risks, forcing many to seek safer alternatives. Among them are numerous scientists of Chinese descent. Many of these individuals have reached out to the Chinese embassy in the United States, seeking asylum in China. The Chinese government has shown keen interest and extended assistance to help them evacuate. Beijing has designated several locations for their resettlement, ensuring they can maintain a high standard of living upon arrival in China. Meanwhile, the Chinese public, driven by a sense of affinity, has warmly welcomed these highly educated professionals, influencing those who are still hesitant to decide to move to China. Welcome home. So this bumps up our research. Good. And here goes the Civil War. This is gonna be a while. Ugh, that hurts so much. Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna send volunteers. Congress refuses diplomacy, and perhaps what will be seen as the most tragic event of the 21st century, the two governments in Devon and Washington, D.C. have refused to engage in diplomatic talks in order to reach a powerful conclusion to the crisis that has shaken the United States after weeks of unsuccessful negotiations. While both Trump and Biden have respectively announced that they were the legitimate leader of the country, sporadic fighting between militias has broken out along the temporary ceasefire line along the Illinois and Indiana border. Fire can be seen rising from a high-rise in Chicago as Trump's militia fire round after round in an attempt to capture the border city, as Biden militias advance onto the town of Danville, Illinois. Brothers against brothers once more. The impact of the oil crisis on our economy can be neutralized through a variety of methods. The government will introduce decrees to limit the rate of increase in fuel prices, set up fuel coupons to limit the consumption of stocks, and issue additional relief and bonds to disadvantaged areas in order to curb the economic downturn. Through a combination of policy instruments, the people realize that we are capable of stabilizing the economic sphere. Actually, I want to stay here for a bit. We need to... It's not really mandatory to, It's not really mandatory to, like, free up space or frame rates on this computer or whatever. Because it's really fast, but I figured what I'll do is just clear up California first. So, let's do that. Trudeau invokes Emergencies Act. Interesting. The UN doing something? Ripples of disaster. The catastrophic consequences of the Second American Civil War extend far beyond the grim reality of 300 million people taking up arms against one another. This collapse of the world's financial hub, once a safe haven for the elite and a birthplace of top-notch innovations for nearly half a century, has severely undermined the foundation of the global economic order. Among those hit hardest is China, the world's second largest economy and the recognized world's factory, as well as the largest holder of U.S. debt. As the first signs of America's disintegration appeared and panic began to spread, the massive outflow of population and wealth initially provided a momentary advantage to its competitors, particularly China and the European Union. China was confident that its carefully crafted dual circulation system would be resilient enough to withstand the shock. However, the collapse of the dollar led to a rapid devaluation of assets held by citizens, erasing the savings of countless families. The stock market, already sluggish since the pandemic, plunged further, breaching the critical 3,000 point mark, with state intervention proving ineffective. The export industry, deprived of its largest market, languished in despair, while markets in Asia, Africa, and Europe also fell into recession, leaving no viable alternatives. Panic among foreign enterprises began to spread, and sudden political tensions and social conflicts eroded their confidence in what was once held as the most stable economy in the world. Once again, the Chinese government and its people bitterly realized that the prosperity and benefits gained since their reintegration into a dollar-based global market 40 years ago came at a steep price. So what can be done? Money can't buy time. Remove one civilian factory. Oh man, look at that. We only have 5 civilian factories. On the 10th anniversary of the Xinhai Revolution, the Xinhua News Agency reported that a grand ceremony was held at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing to commemorate the 110th anniversary of the Xinhai Revolution. The event honored Sun Yat-sen's revolution, which overthrew the Qing dynasty in 1911. Additionally, it highlighted the historical legitimacy of the Communist Party of China. The chairman of the National Committee of the CPPCC, Wang Yang, presided over the session, while the president of China, Xi Jinping, delivered a speech. Enthusiastic applause. Serbia invades Kosovo. The power kick explodes once more. Tibet leadership change. Okay. Guangxi leadership change. Okay. Fill those empty shelves. Nuclear revolution. Economists and scientists in our government have advised us to invest more in the nuclear energy field during the oil crisis and to rely more on this efficient source of energy to power up our economic system and industry. While some are concerned about the potential safety risks and pollution of nuclear energy, there is no room for hesitation at such a critical time. Now, you know what, I'm not going to support Cascadia. Let them handle the thing on their own. You go to my state and destroy me. Trade deals are finalized until us to our northern comrades. New government in Montenegro. The liberal order cracks. Drill for Xinjiang oil. Vast territory of Xinjiang has been exploiting oil since a long time ago, but due to reasons such as remoteness and sparse population, the locally extracted oil cannot be properly utilized. Nowadays, with the construction of new pipelines and the approval of new contracts for oil exploitation, Xinjiang's oil has become the lifeline that sustains our country's economy. The end of ASEAN. They're on their own. Taliban enters Kabul, out with a whimper. Let's see how we're doing. We're doing pretty good. I think we'll just keep it as it is. Nanjing Massacre Memorial Day. Never forget national humiliation. Rejuvenate China. Expanded welfare services. Keep the reforms. Xinjiang leadership change. New leadership, new direction. Cascading Provisional Authority has defeated Rose. Synthetic oil investments. Battle of New York. Big Apple has fallen. Okay, I think we're off to a good start, so thank you all for watching. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.